Dear guests of the Female Guides Requested podcast, happy Wednesday. This is your host Ting Ting from Las Vegas. Our guest today is Paloma Farkas from Bishop, California. Paloma is only 25 years old, but she already has 6 years of guiding under her belt. Right after she graduated from high school, her parents gifted her a NOLS backcountry rock course at the Wind River Range. Paloma then listened to the callings of mountains and followed her heart towards alpine rock climbing and started her guiding career. Paloma grew up in Seattle, Washington, where she discovered her passion for the mountains through family backpacking and climbing trips in the Cascades. In 2017, she traveled to South America and fell in love with the granite towers of Patagonia. Since then, she has split her time between Patagonia, Chile, and the U.S. Paloma spends as much time as possible climbing, and some of her favorite areas are Patagonia, the Peruvian Andes, the Cascades, Indian Creek, the Wind River Range, and the High Sierras. Her favorite type of climbing is big wall alpine climbing, but Paloma also enjoys single pitch track and sport climbing, bouldering, and ice climbing. When Paloma isn't pursuing her own climbing goals, she finds fulfillment in sharing her passion with others and teaching the skills necessary to be self-sufficient in the mountains. She is currently an AMGA Rock guide, Apprentice Alpine guide, wilderness first responder, AIARE Avalanche Pro 1, and Leave No Trace trainer. I admire Paloma's attitude of going for it when she knows what she wants. She works hard and remains optimistic. We had so much laughter during our conversation, and I know you will laugh with us too when you listen to this episode. Good morning, Paloma.
Hi, Ting Ting. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Where are you right now?
Our back porch in Bishop.
Yeah,
And
that's beautiful.
there's the Sierra. It's a little hazy, but it's right there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I like the tarp that you have in the yard.
Oh, yeah, that's to protect us from the 100-degree heat. That's our shade sail.
I need one of those.
Yeah, it's very important.
But the funny thing is, I don't know because I don't even want to go outside right at this moment.
Are you in Vegas right now?
I'm in Vegas right now. I'm heading up to Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Very cool. So you're going to be guiding up there this summer then?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. Great. Welcome to Female Guides Requested podcast.
Thank you.
And, I'm gonna take this lazy route that I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit. You can go as short as you want, as long as you want to our audience.
My name is Paloma Farkas. I'm a AMGA certified rock guide and apprentice alpine guide based in Bishop, California. Been guiding for about 6 years, 4 of those here in Bishop, and before that down in Patagonia, Chile. And let's see, I'm from Seattle originally. Bishop's the only place I've lived in California. And that's about it. I'm a really passionate climber. Love to be in the mountains.
Last time we worked together, I asked you about how you became a guide. I think that was a very interesting story. So you did cross country in college, is that right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Was it like running or?
Yeah, running. So yeah, cross country, it's like 5K and 6K. So it's like distance, but pretty short distance. Yeah. On the trail, not on the track. Yeah.
Right. And when you do cross country skiing, not cross country, sorry, cross country running, that did you kind of run in the mountains or near the mountains?
Near the mountains. Usually it was, in Seattle in parks, close by or outside of Seattle. So we'd be in, pretty settings like in nature, but not necessarily in the mountains, more like the foothills. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I lived in Seattle for a couple of years myself.
Yeah.
Of course, when the weather is good, you can always see Rainier and all other mountain range. So I
Mhm.
think it's a great place for develop your love toward mountains. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so did growing up in Seattle kind of plant the seed for you to pursue
Yeah.
this career?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I really give credit to my parents. Like both my dad and my mom were just they really are still very adventurous people, and they both have spent a lot of time in the mountains. My dad more climbing and mountaineering than my mom, but both of them traveling, backpacking all over the world, and they really valued that connection with nature for my brother and I from a young age. So, for us growing up, like family vacation was always going out backpacking in the Rockies and the Cascades. We would go climbing outside with my dad, and my dad's climbing partner was my mom's brother, my uncle. And they were great partners in the mountains because my uncle was a really good skier and really good on the snow, and my dad was better on the rocks. So they complemented each other really well. And so we would go out as a family with my uncle and his young kids, my cousins, and my dad's brother and his family. We'd go out family camping and go climbing. And both of my brothers are older, and they were afraid of heights from a young age. So we would go out and they would get, 10 feet off the ground and say, put me down right now. I want to go back down. And I just loved it. So that's really where my love of climbing came from. And yeah, we always had a climbing wall growing up. So I think, from the
Like
time
at home?
at home, yeah, at home.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah, we had one. So this sounds really sketchy, but we had a little one outside at one point, and then there was one inside, and it was above our staircase, the staircase that
Oh.
goes down into the basement. And these were cement stairs, Ting Ting. It was like a cement staircase, and we had this huge climbing wall above it. My dad even had this like roof route going like horizontal above the staircase, which was it was like 10 feet up. There were high ceilings and sketch, right?
It's
But
a high ball.
yeah, it was highball just at the house, yeah, all the time. But I think we were always my dad was spotting us. Maybe he brought the crash pad in the house or something. Yeah, actually, I have look, Ting Ting. This is our first crash pad that the computer's.
You still have it.
I still have it, so I don't know how old this thing is. It's one of the like original Metolius ones, but that's from my dad. Yeah,
Awesome. Wow. That is so cool.
yeah,
And
be lucky.
so tell me a little bit connection. How did you end up in Patagonia?
Oh, okay. It's a long story. Let's see. Um, okay. Patagonia. So, 2016, I went to Regis University, started college on a running scholarship for cross country and moved to Denver. I had just done this NOLS trip right beforehand. So my dad, I was getting into trad climbing, multi-pitch climbing in high school, and my dad sat me down and was like, if you want to learn about this inherently more dangerous form of climbing, I want you to learn the skills for yourself, not from your high school boyfriend. Like you should know these skills for yourself. So they signed me up for this NOLS trip in the Wind River Range in Wyoming. And it was like a month of, we were out there, we were climbing. I think before that I had done a 5-6 like 3-pitch route in Leavenworth. And then we did a 5-9 15-pitch route. And I had female instructors, which was incredible. So this NOLS trip like changed my life. Um, completely. Like afterwards, I was like, my heart was just fully in the mountains at that point. And while I was doing that, all of the girls from the cross country team that I was about to join were in a training camp together. So they were all in a high altitude training camp, getting to know each other, getting in shape. I was climbing, right? And then I arrived in Denver, um, to meet them, and yeah, we just did not mesh, like we did not vibe. And the school was a Jesuit school, which I didn't grow up with any sort of religious aspect. Like nobody in my family is religious, not even my grandparents. And so I always thought like, okay, the Jesuits, they're pretty liberal. It's gonna be chill. It was not chill. It was the year they were electing Trump, right? And my roommate, the girls on my cross country team, they were all Trump supporters.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so it was this like really intense time period for me of like coming into conflict with people with just really different views and beliefs than, what I had and what I was growing up with. So I felt very isolated, and I wasn't enjoying my time there. Like I wanted to go explore and go climbing. I was in Colorado, close to Boulder, and I wanted to be climbing and biking and running and everything. And all I could do was study and run, 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 run. And the worst part is that we were doing all of our training on cement. So
Oh,
really bad for your joints. We weren't in the trails, like we could have been on the trails. And anyways,
oh.
it wasn't right for me. So I came home for Christmas, right? And I told my parents I'm not going back to school.
And that was sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
Just trying to track the timeline. So you
yeah,
grew up in Seattle.
yeah,
Your family is very outdoor oriented, and your
yeah,
father is a
uh-huh,
mountaineer and climber.
yeah.
And then at some point, I don't know, high school, college, start cross country running.
Cross country always was there. I started running when I was like 10. Um,
Okay,
so I ran like running was my whole life before climbing took over, which really climbing started to take over in high school, and I kind of kept running, and then, it culminated in this moment of, quitting the cross country team and dropping out of college. Yeah.
I see. So I assume that you must, I mean, you were into running, you must have compete something and then got a
Yeah.
scholarship.
Exactly. Yeah. I was
Okay.
pretty good at running, good enough to get a D2 scholarship. And that was kind of like, of course you're gonna go because you have this opportunity. I would not have been able to afford to go to like a private school, without the scholarship. So it was a huge opportunity for me.
I
Yeah.
see. So with that scholarship, kind of dictate which school you're going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And what I was doing, that was the thing, because running, in college is even for Division 2, it's hardcore. Like that's all you're doing is training and running, and so it really impacted my experience. It wasn't the classic like freshman year college experience.
And
Yeah.
then, so you took a nose course. Was that before you entered the college or
Yeah.
some?
So it was after exactly, it was in the summer right after senior year. It was my graduation present from my parents,
Oh, okay.
my
I
grandma.
just so you know, I also learned how to track climb at the nose
That's so cool.
backcountry rock in the
Awesome. In
winds
Wyoming? In the
in
wind.
Wyoming in the winds.
So rad. Did you guys go into the which area were you climbing? Do you remember?
See, it's this area the nose developed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so darn, it was
It wasn't like the Deep Lake,
2007.
Deep Lake area, Haystack Mountain, that zone? Maybe.
No, I can't recall. I can find out, but no worries. This podcast is about you, so I don't have to. But I just kind of want to mention that because we now see, look, we share something in common.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
and Wind River Range always have a special place
Me too.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it really like just changed my vision of climbing. Like, oh, I can go out to these remote mountain ranges, and be so far away from, civilization and then have these like really intense and amazing experiences on long traditional routes. And I remember just being so inspired by that idea of like, we're going to cover, 1,200 feet and we're not going to leave anything behind. And that just kind of blew my mind at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, the sense of adventure and possibility that track climbing can do is
Exactly.
incredible.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like the doors were open for me, to this whole new world. And yeah, I was just so excited to go climb all the mountains.
Nice. And
Yeah.
of course that before that you boulder in the house. And
House, exactly. Yeah. And like I got, I was really started getting into climbing on my own in high school. And I kind of like learned how to lead climb and I was climbing in the gym at Stone Gardens in Seattle. And then I started working there.
oh,
So all of my climbing partners were my gym coworkers in their 30s, and I was like this 16-year-old, like, let's go trad climbing. I've got my rack of rigid stemmed friends here who wants to go out and check out these hexes, and I learned to lead with a gear sling, like the old school padded gear sling. And I think it was kind of a funny sight, like, yeah, just this little scrappy teenage girl with like this really old school rack. And but I didn't really like do the proper climbing evolution of like, okay, sport climb, learn how to take falls, you like learn how to I just kind of learned to lead and then immediately got into trad climbing and then multi-pitch and alpine climbing.
yeah, I
So
mean that's not a bad route at all.
yeah, I know, but now that I live in Bishop, like I've become a sport climber and finally I'm learning how to take falls and all of that. So it's just kind of a funny evolution. Yeah.
Nice. And you were in college
Mhm.
and yeah, it's kind of surprising for me because you were in Colorado and then
Mhm.
your peers with Trump supporters
Yes. Yeah.
and you still had to run a lot in that
Yes.
environment. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you start to have doubts. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
pretty much right away. Yeah.
And then so was it after just the first year that you went home and you told your
No,
family?
first semester, Ting Ting.
Oh,
First
okay.
6
First
months.
semester.
Yeah, and I was out. I was like, I'm not going back. This isn't right for me. I'm not happy. I just knew like deep down that it just was not in the right place. And um yeah, I really just was dreaming of the mountains. And yeah, I just knew it wasn't the right place and not the right time. Like, okay, maybe I can go back to school at a different time, but I didn't want to be there and I didn't even want to be in the US at the time. Like I felt
Oh,
such a
okay.
strong sense of what's the right word? I'm thinking in Spanish, rechazo, which is like rejection, like rejecting the US, rejecting Trump and, everything that our country was supporting, right? Like that he could actually become elected. And I just didn't want any part of it. I was like, I want to get far away from here. And that's where the whole traveling to South America idea came into play.
Oh,
Uh,
so with dropping out college, how did your family react?
they did pretty good. Yeah, I mean, they were shocked and disappointed, but they're very open-minded people and they could see that I wasn't happy and they knew too, like I did, like this wasn't the right place for me. And so I think yeah, part of it is like you finish something you started, right? And they had those feelings but ultimately they were supportive because they knew that I wasn't happy and I knew what I wanted. And so I think they could see that and it was kind of just, they had to trust me at that point. And I think it was harder maybe for my mom than my dad. And I remember the road trip of from Christmas driving out with my dad back to Colorado to get all of my stuff to move out of the dorm. And that was a powerful road trip, but also a really beautiful one. And we just had a lot of one-on-one time together and a lot of deep talks, spent on the hours on the road. And I think my dad came to just understand, yeah, where I was at, and he really supported me. So I was grateful for that at the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But I think probably they also saw your strong will.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah,
just like, I don't want to do this.
right.
In addition to that, you also knew that what you wanted.
Yeah, really like my heart was already fully on this mountain path, I would say, from the NOLS course, which they signed me up for. So they planted the seed, right? I mean, my dad, my mom, they taught me how to climb. They signed me up for this NOLS course. Like, I don't know what they're expecting, really.
Maybe they just expect that, well, you learn the right tool so you will not get yourself to too much of trouble.
Right, right, exactly. I think that was it. It was like, oh, she actually really likes this climbing thing, and oh boy, now she wants to do this trad climbing and this alpine climbing thing. Like, we better make sure she's not gonna get hurt or anything. So,
All
yeah.
right. You wanted to leave United States.
Yeah.
Then why Patagonia? You could have gone to, say, Australia or
Right.
Europe or New Zealand.
Right. So there were a couple different factors. I Patagonia, I knew about Patagonia as this, alpine climbing mecca. Like I had I forget which book it was, but I had a book that had photos of Patagonia in it that was maybe my dad's or my uncle's. And I remember looking at that a lot in high school. And then I had this friend, Nora, and we had met senior year of high school. She went to a different high school in Seattle. And she had finished her first year of college and was doing a gap year. She was in the same boat, like wanted to get out of the US, wanted to go experience something different, a different culture, a different language. And I, kind of had this idea of Patagonia. And then Nora had this godmother from Chile who lived in Seattle. And so we went over and talked with her, and she kind of told us about Chile and what it was like in Chile, and just really encouraged us to go and said, Chile is a wonderful country. The people are amazing. And I've always felt really safe there traveling as a woman. And that was all we needed to know. We were like, okay, let's do it. We didn't do much research, which was the awesome thing about this first trip down there. It was just like, yep, Chile, buena onda, good people. Patagonia, they speak Spanish, different culture. Okay, venga, we're in, let's go. And that was kind of it. We booked our flights, and I was really set on learning Spanish on that trip.
Uh, you spoke zero Spanish when
Almost
you.
zero. So I have a Spanish name, but there's no Spanish connection in my family at all. They just gave me this name, and I did, let's see, 3 years of Spanish in high school, but very minimal. I liked it a lot, but then I didn't have a teacher that I got along very well with my last 2 years of Spanish, so I was kind of like, whatever. But at this time, like for some reason, being elected, everything, I was like, I want to learn Spanish. I want to learn this, new language. I want to learn this other culture in South America. Um, and so, yeah, I had very basic Spanish. Like I understood how to conjugate verbs and kind of the structure, but I couldn't speak barely at all. Like I could just say hola and cómo estás, and that was about it. And so I was looking for Spanish programs in Chile, and they were all in Santiago. And I thought, I don't really want to be in a big city. And so I found this Spanish program in Pichilemu, which is this little surf town on the coast of Chile. And it's actually like a
So,
world famous surfing
oh,
destination.
but
Yeah.
it's not exactly close to Patagonia then.
No, no, not at all. It's in central Chile, so very
Mm-hmm.
far away. Chile is a very long country. There's a huge distance between, yeah, Patagonia and central Chile, and then northern Chile, of course. So that's where I ended up. And my friend Nora, she was doing something totally different. She was like not interested in learning Spanish. And so I was on my own, doing Spanish classes next to the ocean for maybe 3 hours a day. And it was just conversational Spanish with me and the teacher. And then I was living with this host family that they put me in contact with. And that was just, yeah, an amazing experience. And I think it really helped me learn pretty quick because I was just surrounded by the Spanish and nobody really spoke English in that town. So every day I was like coming home from classes to my host family, which was this big, boisterous Chilean family. And so I kind of had to figure out how to communicate. And every weekend I would take the bus all the way up to Santiago and go climbing with these Chileans that I had met like my first couple of days in Chile. And so I was doing this like 5 hour bus ride pretty much every weekend to go climbing in Cajon del Maipo. And then
You were
and
saying you were weekend warrior.
Weekend warrior, exactly. Yeah, I was doing the whole weekend warrior thing. I wasn't hanging out with any gringos, and so I picked up Spanish pretty quick. And then after that month of classes, I got back together with my friend Nora, and we started to head south to Patagonia. Yeah, so that was kind of the end goal of the trip was like make it to Patagonia from central Chile. Yeah, and we were mostly hitchhiking, and then we did some sections of it like backpacking, like in the mountains hiking. So it was, yeah, just a really cool trip. Yeah.
And how long you mentioned that the first time in Patagonia, so you also then how long was that first trip?
Yeah, so that first trip was supposed to be 3 months and it ended up being 6 months. So I called, like, I was like, I'm not coming back, mom and dad, I really love it down here in Chile. And I canceled my ticket home and got another one, an extra 3 months later. So by the time at the end of my trip, I was in Patagonia and Nora, she had fallen in love with this Argentinian guy and she left. So Nora was gone and I was in Patagonia on my own and I had like no money left, because didn't earn that much money at the climbing gym to save up for this trip, right? And I had planned for 3 months and then it was 6 months. So anyways, I was totally broke and I was backpacking, like doing the backpacking circuits in El Chaltén and Torres Alpine and just fell completely in love with the mountains there. Like I just felt this really strong pull um to climb those mountains and also just to the place. Like I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I felt like yeah, just like a calling almost, like this connection to the land there and this like desire to just explore. There was like, oh, there's something here that I need to explore more of um and so I met climbers down there and these good friends Oche and Ruth who own a hostel in Puerto Natales, which is the town closest to Torres del Paine National Park on the Chilean side. And they let me stay at their hostel for free for like a week because I had no money. And they took me climbing and put me in contact with these climbers, Chilean dirt bags, right? And these guys were all guides and porters in the national park, so hiking guides. And that's kind of how they lived down there was they were guiding and climbing when the weather windows came. And so that's where the idea was planted to start guiding, was really through these climbers in Puerto Natales. And they were like, Paloma, you already speak Spanish and English, just go home, get the woofer, and then you could come back and get a job. And I was like, okay, this is it. I've got a plan. So I was on the plane back to the US and I was writing emails to the Chilean guiding companies like, hola, my name is Paloma. I've never guided before, but I've been a climber my whole life. I think I'd be good at it. Please hire me. And I had these like Skype interviews, my kind of bumpy Spanish at the time and yeah, I got a job and so I went back like I think I was only in the US for maybe 4 months and then went back in 2018, in the fall of 2018, to start the guiding season in October. Yeah.
And back then you were guiding, say, backpacking, hiking?
Yeah, yeah, hiking. Yeah, a lot of day hikes. They call it trekking down there. So, yeah, trekking guiding, day hikes. We take people horseback riding, kayaking to see the glacier. And then yeah, my second season I actually started doing a little bit of rock guiding, like top rope rock guiding. Um, and then that's kind of where I mean, it was like the logical progression of guiding. Like I just really loved the guiding down there and was really psyched on showing people the mountains and having that experience. And then I started to think about like technical certifications. Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
curious in order to go to South American work, where did you work? Chile or Argentina?
In
Chile?
Chile. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Do you have to go through any like visa requirement or
Yeah, so the visa process was pretty easy. I just got a temporary work visa each time I went down. But so the funny thing is that everything in Puerto Natales moves so slowly. Like any sort of thing that you need to
paperwork?
paperwork, it just takes forever. Like they don't even send emails a lot of times. Nothing is electronic. It's all like just printed out. You have to go leave like 5 photocopies. Somebody stamps it. They've got to send it to somebody else. It's a long process. So, I would go, they would give me the work permit, which is like even before the work visa. You pay, whatever, $300 something. You get the work permit. And then what happened 2 seasons in a row is that they took so long to actually process my visa that by the time they gave me the real visa, I was already gone. Like it would be the end of the season. And the real visa was like $500 or something. And so I wouldn't pay for
Wow.
the real visa. And I just had my work permit. And that was how it happened, like 2 years in a row. So it's kind of funny. But I think if you were in Santiago, maybe it would be faster. But Puerto Natales just has a special rhythm of life. It's
And
slow.
and every time you go down, you have to redo this
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, so I think like if you actually go follow through and get the real visa, it lasts 2 years maybe. But since I only had the work permit, I had to do it again each season. Yeah. hmm
And when you say season in Patagonia, is it roughly say November to March or I don't know
Yeah.
when
Yeah, I mean for like the hiking season is pretty long because yeah, you really start in October and then it goes all the way sometimes to April, but it depends on the year. As you probably have know, like the weather in Patagonia is just really unpredictable and it changes each year. So, the like best summer months are, January, February, but really you can have good weather in March, you could have good weather in December. And for hiking, right, it's you don't need often we're doing these hikes in just horrendous rain and, really intense wind and all of this. So, yeah, it's quite a long guiding season down there.
when you were guiding as a hiking guide or trekking, I should say trekking
Trekking
guide
guide.
down there.
Trekking sounds better.
So during your rest day, I'm assuming you still go climbing.
Yes, yes, lots of climbing and yeah, it actually got me in trouble multiple times because I was working on this team of guides and they weren't really climbers like the other people who were working for this first company and I would, always be trying to line up. So we would work these schedules that would be like 10 days on, 4 days off, something like this. And most people on their 4 days off would go to town, they would drink, they would eat lots of food, right? And then come back. And of course, on my 4 days off, I wanted to go into the mountains and do some big mission. And, in Torres Alpine, you have to hike like one day just to get into your objective. So it's not like it's pretty hard to do fast missions out there, you really have to put the time in to get into the mountains. And um, yeah, there were a couple times where I got back. One time specifically where I was back late to work because I had climbed one of the towers in Torres Alpine, and they almost fired me because I was late, and I think I had even like in reached my boss from the summit, which was right there. It's like right above our camp in the this hotel was like these geodesic domes right in the entrance of the national park, which was pretty cool. And you could see the top of the tower from the hotel. And I had said, like, I'm on the summit of the central tower. I'm not gonna make it back for my briefing tomorrow, you know. But they were not very pleased with me. So yeah.
Yeah, I can see both sides view.
Of course, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned that you started to have this thought of being started to guiding in technical
Mhm.
section,
Yeah.
and so thinking about certification. And was that thinking, can you do that in down there, or you thought about I'm just gonna go back to United States and do this?
Yeah, so the certification thing really happened during COVID. And so
Okay.
this was 2020. Yeah, and this was I was with my partner Michael, who's from Chile. We met in Patagonia my second season down there. Fell in love. We climbed this to tower together, the Torre Central that I'm telling you about. And um so then the next season that I went down to work, my second work season, we were working together at the same company. And part of that was because he was there, and part of that was because they had a climbing area close, like outdoor rock, about 15-minute walk from the hotel
Oh,
uh, in Rio Serrano, which is the southern part of Torres del Paine. And it's just a beautiful spot in the national park because you can see the whole massif, like the whole mountain range is in front of you. And it's on this river, the confluence of these two rivers. And they have this climbing area. And then almost the best part was that our boss was Mika, my husband's friend from college. And so Alen, our boss, he was like the boss, the guide boss. Like he was in charge of the guides manager, right? And he would help us, like if there was a weather window coming and it like didn't really overlap with our days off, he would cover us and like rearrange
oh
the
my God,
schedule so that we could go climbing. So
that's incredible!
it was
Because
amazing.
I know how precious the wind where the window is.
Right? So it was like a dream come true. So I jumped ships to Hotel Rio Serrano and did this season there. We were doing some climbing guiding, like taking people top roping at this spot, Rio Nutria, and climbing together. And then at the end of the season in March, March 2020, COVID hit. And I remember like first hearing about it, like, because we didn't really watch the news when we're down there. Like we're in our own little bubble. And we started hearing kind of rumors of this whole COVID thing. And, you know, we had tourists from all over the world that were down there, right? Like it's 90% foreign tourists, not Chileans, that are getting guided down there. And we started hearing the rumors of this COVID thing. We didn't really take it seriously at all. And then all of a sudden we had this meeting with the whole staff of the hotel, and they were like, this COVID thing is real and we need to shut down the hotel. And we don't know when yet, but probably we're going to end the season soon. So this was March, so it would have gone maybe another month or so, right? And then, the next day it was like everybody needs to leave in 24 hours. So it's like this very fast, like, oh, everything's normal. And then, oh God, it's not normal. We have no work. It's over, right? And the Chile actually pretty promptly closed all of the national parks, and Argentina closed its borders. So we were essentially like on an island in Puerto Natales because on the Chilean side in Patagonia, there's all of these fjords. So you can't go north to central Chile via land. Like you have to fly or take a ferry in different sections. And the ferries, they were only letting at the time like Chilean residents or local residents use these ferries. So we were kind of stuck down there, and it was a really cool experience because it was COVID winter. And it was the coldest winter in Puerto Natales in maybe 15 years. And I'd always been there in the summer. So we were renting a house with some friends, and we were hearing from my parents about how terrible COVID was in Seattle and the US. And we were like, oh, good thing we're down here in Patagonia. This seems a lot better. At least we're isolated. Only a few people have COVID. It's all good, right? But eventually, the months went by. We had very little hours of daylight every day. We were just drinking mate and playing chess and like making cookies. And that was about it. And eventually it was like, oh gosh, like we need to work. This is not going away. It's been 5 months. There's still, you know, still COVID. And so that was kind of when the idea happened for me. Like, we can't work, we might as well start our guiding certification, take advantage of this time when the world is on pause to go and, start our certifications in the US. And so this was with my partner at the time, Mija, and we decided to go to the US together and do our rock guide course with the AMGA. So that was, let's see, we did our rock guide course fall of 2020 in Smith Rock. And I had flown a little bit earlier to the US and had a couple months at home. And then Mika joined me right before the rock guide course. And we did our rock guide course with masks on and the COVID pods and the whole thing. Yeah. And that's kind of where it started. So it was really like, just I knew that I wanted to get into technical guiding at the time. And it was just felt like a good time to start down the path, while we couldn't work and do these other things. Yeah.
So you got rock guide course 2020
Yeah.
fall, and
Mhm.
then did you continue like maybe the next year and then the next year or?
I think it took us 2 years to do our advanced. Yeah, 2 years. I think I tried to apply maybe the next year and I got waitlisted, and that was good because I really wasn't ready yet anyways. Because I mean,
I
yeah, we
was
go ahead.
I was surprised that you got in like 2020 and wasn't on wait list. Maybe it's because of COVID. I don't know. It just I heard that the program can sometimes can be competitive, so you have to apply way ahead.
Right. Oh, you were surprised that we didn't get waitlisted the first time?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I think like, our rock resume might have helped at the time.
Mm.
Like we had a really strong personal climbing resume, and we obviously had not done really any rock guiding at the time, but we were always like mock guiding each other and just had done all of these, big rock routes together. So we had like a good amount of experience like on these long rock routes in the US, in Patagonia, in we went to Peru the year before and climbed like a big wall at altitude. And so if I had to guess, I think it would probably be like we had this strong resume, and or we just got lucky, and that's how they accepted us. But yeah.
Yeah, because you mentioned that you have that thought and you were stuck in 2020. So I was assuming that you didn't send in your application maybe just a couple months ahead.
Oh yeah. No, I think we applied like within the normal, like we got our applications in before the deadline. I mean, we were really like we had so much time on our hands, Ting Ting, because
Okay, yeah, yeah.
nothing was happening. Like we couldn't work. We were even like shamed in Patagonia for going climbing. Like I know this was happening in the US
Mm.
too, but we were going climbing because what better place to be than outside in the pandemic. Like you can social distance, you can be far away from other people. It's necessary for your mental health, right? All of these things. And even down there where there was almost no COVID, there were people in the community who felt very strongly that we should not be climbing. This was when people thought you could get COVID by touching the holds, right? Nobody knew. So, um, yeah, we were climbing, but mostly we were just sitting around. And the days are very, very short that far south in the winter. So, we would get up with the light at 10 a.m. and it would be dark at 4. Not a whole lot to do. It was very cold. So we had a lot of time to kind of think about this whole rock guide thing and start to work on our resumes and fill things in. Yeah.
And how was the AMGA experience go with you?
In general or the first
Yeah,
time?
in general. I mean, any highs, lows, general impression?
I would say, yeah, generally, it's been really positive. I've learned a ton. Like I basically, became a guide through the AMGA, started guiding right away after my rock guide course. So it wasn't like I had all this guiding experience and then did the certifications like some people. And so they really, formed me as a guide. And I think we just got very lucky with the instructors that we had on our rock guide course, the advanced and the aspirant exam, and then the exam. Like yeah, I can only say good things about the people that we worked with. That being said, like of all the programs I've done, I've never had a female instructor. I've often
Mm.
been, the only woman in my, like, I think rock guide course, I was the only woman. Advanced was half and half, which was amazing,
Oh,
or almost
interesting.
half and half, right? And then the exam, only woman again,
Mm.
right? And then when we did so we were apprentice alpine guides, so we did the first alpine course, and I think it was, yeah, maybe a third were women, but of course no female instructors. So that's really stood out to me throughout the AMGA. And yeah, of course, like there's a lot of things that are, not everyone's happy with the AMGA, and it's kind of like a love-hate relationship, right? Like it's so much money, these courses, and obviously, yeah, there's some mismanagement with the money and different, things that maybe you're not so happy with how they're managing things. But at the end of the day, when I think of my experience through the courses and exams, it's been really positive and I've learned a tremendous amount. So that's all I can really say from my point of view. It's been good.
I see. I mean, I share the similar experience with you. I was, well, except for my rock guide course, I was the only woman, and all my instructor had been male
All men. Yeah.
instructors.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I never had a female instructor
Yeah.
myself. And I did notice that, oh, I kind of stood out as the, I don't know, appearance, the identity.
Right.
Um, but good thing the overall experience for me was positive. But I was wondering whether, so you noticed that there's not that many women, okay, or
Yeah.
maybe only one woman.
Yes.
That did it affect you, or were you just like, oh, noted?
Yeah, it was more like noted. I don't think I was, super bummed out about it or anything at the time. But then obviously, like as I started to kind of enter the industry in the US, so basically like we did the rock guide course and got married with my husband, Mija. So we had a COVID like courthouse wedding and in Seattle. And so then he was in this weird in between of we started getting the visa or like working towards the green card. But he couldn't work and he couldn't leave the country for a
Hmm.
year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, crazy. So he was like stuck in the US basically. We had to get an immigration lawyer. It was, a lot of hoops to jump through and pay a lot of money and then he was yeah, in this weird limbo where it was like he couldn't leave, he couldn't work yet because he didn't have the green card and so I was applying for jobs, for guiding jobs right after the rock guide course. because yeah, we were in Seattle at the time and I really wanted to move and start working and so I actually got a job with Sierra Mountain Center in Bishop and Alpine Institute in Bellingham. And those were my two options. And I did interviews with both and yeah, had good vibes from both places, but ultimately we decided to go to Bishop because it was new. Bellingham is like so close to where I grew up. Both of my brothers went to school there. And the other thing is that, Bellingham, we were really psyched on doing the rock certification, and Bellingham is amazing access to the mountains, but if there's not, I mean, you probably know, there's just not that rock climbing close. You have to do a lot of driving, and that impacted our decision. We had done a short visit to Bishop, I think in 2019, with a friend actually who was living here from Chile, Gabo, and he was our tour guide. So we had come from Yosemite and he showed us around Bishop for maybe a week or so. And I think in a week we went bouldering, we went to Pine Creek, sport climbing, granite sport climbing. We scrambled a 13,000-foot peak. And what else? And maybe, yeah, we went to another, trad climbing area. And so when we thought of Bishop, we were like, okay, I think we could live there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Understood. Yeah.
yeah, and we moved here and started working. I started working here for Sierra Mountain Center. Um, and I think, yeah, just like entering into the guiding industry here in the Sierra, which is really like, a small bubble of the guiding world. It's pretty isolated. That's when I really started to like feel the impact more of being a woman in the industry, more than in my courses, because yeah, I was just, I was working for under a male boss. I had all my coworkers were male for the most part. And yeah, just kind of seeing like um oftentimes how I was received by the clients as well. Like, the majority of the clients were these older white men, that's like that's the population, like 45 to 60-year-old, you know, white dudes who are want to go up Mount Whitney. And that was like how I learned to guide was guiding Mount Whitney and rock guiding here. And yeah, I would just see like oftentimes here we work solo. We do a lot of usually I'm on my own guiding here. One client, two clients, really small ratio. But sometimes for Sierra Mountain Center, I would get these trips. We'd have a group of people that wanted to go up Mount Whitney. So we'd be two guides. And that's where I really started to feel it was, when it would be a male coworker and myself on a trip. And just yeah, even just in the introductions, with our clients and kind of watching their reaction because I was this, yeah, really young, let's see, yeah, 22-year-old um fresh guide, right? And then my male counterpart, and it was just always assumed like he's the guide, she's the assistant. And so that's where I really started to feel it was like with the clients and then this dynamic with my coworkers and the clients and that's where I really started to think more about what does it mean to be a woman in this industry. And interestingly enough, like guiding in Chile, where the culture is arguably a lot more like sexist and machismo than the US, I felt so much more supported and empowered by my male coworkers down there, like my Chilean,
Interesting.
right? Yeah. So yeah. So down there, like, yeah, I don't know if it's just because some of my coworkers were younger, they're climbers, like, different, maybe just different than the rest of the population in Chile, but I always felt, yeah, really supported and just respected. And it was never something that I thought too much about, like, oh, I'm a female guide and it's hard, until I started rock guiding here in the Sierra. So
Interesting. That's
yeah,
really interesting because you mentioned that so when you work in Chile, it was a small town, right?
yeah,
Okay. And then Bishop, well, I won't call it a small town, but
it's
how do how, okay.
it's
Yeah.
smaller than Puerto Natales in
Oh,
Patagonia. Way
okay.
smaller. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to, so I'm mostly guiding Red Rock
Right.
nowadays. So I'm
Right.
trying to think my own experience. I I mean, I probably would say the majority of my clients, they are not like you said. I definitely have 40 to 60-year old white male, but I also have a lot more diverse client base. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I don't see as much of clients see me as just like, oh, you are an Asian woman or whatever
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right.
But I
I think
wonder whether it's also location
mhm,
specific too.
where you are. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And like now I think my clients are a lot more diverse actually, but just yeah, when I started I did, a lot of Whitney Mountaineers trip because it was, mountain guiding but not very technical. Like the Mountaineers route up Whitney is, you're doing some steep
Oh, you are
climbing.
not doing the East Buttress and East
No,
Face
no,
thing?
mostly the Mountaineers route. So that's the classic because it's like people who don't want to do the trail, but they don't really know how to climb. And so then you put them on the Mountaineers, because you can probably short rope them up it, And
Mm-hmm.
there's like a little bit of scrambling towards the top, but it's pretty manageable. So I think that route in and of itself really lends itself to this type of client, like these older
Hmm.
people who are like they want to be in, they want to kind of maybe relive their some of their climbing experiences from a younger day, or they're like, okay, I want to get into mountain climbing, and it's kind of a good way to start. And of course, like Mount Whitney, it's the highest peak in the lower 48. And so
Yeah.
a lot of people come to the Sierra to do Whitney specifically. Hmm.
And you started uh, guiding after your first rock guide course in
Yeah.
Bishop. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you been back to Patagonia guiding at all, or that was it?
Not guiding for any companies down there. So let's see, yeah, last year we went back down. So yeah, my husband Mija, for a while he wasn't able to go back to Chile during COVID because the border was closed and then also because of green card restrictions. So really it was 2 years that he didn't see his family and we weren't
Wow.
back in Chile. So it's yeah, really big sacrifice and just a difficult time for him and for us. But we finally made it back down last year and we had a client from the US come down and we did some guiding with him in northern Chile, which is where Mija, my husband, started guiding. And so that was pretty cool. It's like high altitude volcanoes up there. And we did a 2 week long like expedition with this guy from the US. And then I also taught a clinic, like a women's trad clinic in Puerto Natales. Um, and that was just an amazing experience. So we did a little bit of guiding, but mostly it was a personal trip and, seeing friends and family and climbing. And we kind of celebrated a second wedding last year with both of our families. So that was awesome. But now, our vision and our goal, like since we started the certification process is to eventually like create our own guiding company where we can hopefully yeah train climbers in the Sierra and then bring them down to Patagonia to climb objectives down there. So that's kind of our vision is to yeah be able to
Hmm.
kind of vet people and okay, you want to climb, the towers, Torres Alpine, let's do the Hulk first. And then we can go down and do some, very personalized small ratio trips in Patagonia. So that's kind of the goal. We want to be certified Alpine first. Hmm.
I can see that because you two share this experience, and then you definitely have that niche that working for you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you, so right now, your husband, can you pronounce his name again for me?
So it's Michael. It's like Michael, but it's a
Michael.
Michael, yeah, with an H. But he it's hard to say, and he goes
Okay.
usually by Mija, so
Mija.
Mija, which is very confusing for people because mi hija is my daughter, and Mija
Okay.
is his nickname, so it's very similar. So sometimes, we're out at the crag or something, and people hear Mija, and they're like, "What is up with these people?" Like, over here. Anyways, yeah, Mika, Mija. It's a tricky one to pronounce. It's actually like a Hebrew name, so people in Chile don't
Okay.
know how to say it either.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And right now he's also working the same company right now, or
Yeah, we both work now primarily for Sierra Mountain Guides. And we do a little bit of freelance work for other companies, but yeah, so we've done all of our courses up until now together, except for he did the ice instructor course last winter and I did the pro one. And then this winter we're gonna flip-flop so that we can do the advanced alpine together, hopefully next summer. Yeah, so
nice.
we've been on the same track together. Yeah.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
looking at the now, originally I have another question, but I kind of
Yeah.
now can see that you plan to potentially stay in Bishop for another few years potentially, or maybe even start something on your own in Bishop
Yeah, I think,
potentially.
yeah.
Because my question is, I see, I forgot episode which one. I interviewed Lyra Periarty,
Oh, cool.
and she used to live in Bishop, work in Bishop,
Awesome.
and eventually she moved out to Pacific Northwest because I asked her why. She mentioned that because in Bishop a lot of people coming, so it's no matter what, it's not really near any urban center.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not like Red Rock or like Bellingham or Seattle. You can just go there, fly there, and then the next day you can be on the mountains and
Right.
everything. Yeah. So she think that if she want to make a long term career, she need to go somewhere else.
Hmm.
And I was wondering how do you feel about that? It's like, do you have constant string of work that is making a sustainable career for you in Bishop?
Yeah, that's the really tricky thing is, yeah, having enough work year round because here the busy season for us is the summer. It's the alpine guiding season, so it's primarily overnight trips and alpine rock objectives in the High Sierra. And you know, Bishop has so much terrain for guiding, like ice climbing, ski touring, alpine rock, mountaineering objectives, true rock climbing. Like it pretty much has it all, which is incredible. The only thing we really don't have are glaciers here. We only have one living glacier left in the Sierra. Um, but yeah, as you're saying, the crux is getting the clients here because yeah, we're not close to a big city. And so a lot of people they come to climb Whitney or they come to go ski touring in the winter, but not a lot of people, this is going to sound funny to the climbers, but clients don't know that Bishop has so much rock climbing,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so that's the tricky thing. Like in the winter, it's arguably the best time of year to be rock climbing. In Bishop, it's amazing. It's like, sometimes it's in the 60s, sunny, perfect temps, sending temps. Um, and the clients don't come for that in the winter, and so we're
Oh,
always
they come to Red Rock.
Red Rock, right? They go to Joshua Tree. They come here to go maybe skiing or ice climbing, if that, right? And so that's the tricky thing is trying to harness the climbers to come to Bishop in the, year round and in the shoulder season, which is when it's just lovely to climb. Right? Like in the summer you want to be up high in the mountains. So yeah, we're trying to make it work. For right now, like yeah, we're really focused on just gaining the skills to be able to guide in winter as well because yeah, we both just want to be as well-rounded multi-skilled guides as possible. And yeah, really like we're seeing like you need to be able to work winter and summer or you have to do the double summer thing, which I did for a
Mm.
long time, Patagonia here. But that's kind of our goal is like, get the skills, through our alpine training and who knows, maybe eventually the ski track to be able to guide, year round and have enough work. But for right now, we're kind of right on the edge. Like we almost have enough. We want more, and it's just yeah, it's the feast or famine. It's like it's on, and you can work, 20 days in a row, and then you can go months with very minimal work. So, yeah, that's kind of the tricky thing here.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's like summer you stay in Bishop, all
Yeah,
right?
summer
And
and
yeah,
Bishop and now we're really like, yeah, entertaining the idea of okay, maybe we have to let's go do a month in Red Rock in the fall and maybe we just need to move around a little bit more to kind of find that year-round work. Yeah.
I see.
Mhm.
Yeah, just like I'm going to Pacific Northwest since
Yeah, exactly. Because it's too hot in Vegas. Like, I mean, you gotta hustle if you want to guide full time. It's you can't just like relax and wait for the work to come.
right. So Alpine guys in the near future, basically.
Yeah, that's the goal. Like, yeah, right now, I mean, for me, really the crux is the ice climbing.
Oh,
And
you haven't done much ice climbing?
no, and I don't love it at the moment. But I just don't think I've done enough. Like, I'm scared. I'm scared ice climbing, and I think I just need a lot of mileage to get comfortable. And so that's the goal this winter for me is to do a lot of ice climbing and hopefully take my ice instructor course by
I
the
can
end.
be your mock client if you
That
want.
would be amazing. Yeah, I would love that. I need like, yeah, as many mock clients and as many mentors in the ice realm as possible. And just yeah, the whole world of snow. Like so last winter I did my Pro 1 Avalanche course and yeah, I'm a pretty novice skier. Like and yeah, it's just yeah, it's not my comfort zone and so
So
my
you
my
like rock the best,
rock
basically.
is, yes, I'm a rock climber and I love Alpine rock is my absolute favorite terrain out
Mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
hands down. And so really, yeah, the crux of this Alpine track is just yeah, gaining the experience on snow, on ice, on glaciers, right? That I haven't spent much time on. Mika has actually he just got back from guiding on Denali for the past 2 months
Oh,
and
okay.
did that last year as well. So he's kind of been cultivating the glacier experience a little bit. And again, like he started guiding, doing more of like mountaineering, like that kind of style guiding. And so that's kind of what I'm looking towards. Like I really am not that interested in glacier slogging, but I realize that it's a skill set that I really need to develop to just be more well-rounded. And yeah, I just have a lot of respect and caution with the snow and just yeah, these other elements that are so out of our control, right? Like
Yeah.
in the mountains, there's so many factors that we can't control, but just being on rock primarily, even if it's alpine rock that can break and storms can come in, it's so much more predictable than the snow and the ice, right? That's this changing
Yeah.
medium. So that's really, yeah, what it is for me is just it's the unknown and I just want to learn as much as I can to become comfortable with it. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, like doing the Pro 1 Avalanche was really cool because I felt like I was just so far out of my comfort zone and I learned so much and it just felt great to be like a beginner again. And like, okay, back to school. Like, I don't know anything. I'm open. I want to learn about everything that I can. And it's like a very, yeah, kind of sensitive topic for me. Like my uncle, who was, yeah, one of my climbing mentors, like my dad's climbing partner, and he passed away in an avalanche in
Oh.
2014 in actually on Mount Shuksan. So yeah, in the North Cascades and um yeah, it's just yeah, it was a huge like turning point in my life. It actually like so it was a really like hard time for me, in high school and my uncle was yeah, just such an incredible person and really really close to us because he lived with us until I was I don't know, 11 or 12. So he was kind of like a third parent in the mix and we'd go out climbing, my uncle and I, and with my dad, and backpacking, and he just had so much psych for the mountains, and just this like energy that could not be put out. Like he just had endless energy, um, and so yeah, like he died in this avalanche and left my little cousins behind, and so like for me getting into mountain climbing, like I've always had this like really serious undertone, and I've never I just have, it's something I've grappled with over the years because sometimes I realize that in a group of friends, like I'm often the most cautious voice in the group, and I'm often the one that's thinking the most about the danger and the risk. And it can be difficult, right? Because yeah, it's like you don't want to be the, I don't want to say boring, but like negative, like you shouldn't do this type of voice. But I just that's how I see, it's hard for me to see the mountains without seeing that full picture of, you know, death is right there. And, these mediums of snow and ice and rock and the weather, like they're very dynamic, and, it's serious. It's
Definitely.
not we can't, believe like, oh, we're guides, we know everything and we've got this thing under control, right? So that's, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, really impacted too. Just, for a long time, I just stayed off of snow. I didn't want to be on snow at all. And so now I'm kind of like turning the corner with that of, okay, I'm just still very cautious, but trying to gain as much knowledge as I can, right? Instead of just being scared of it. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I totally understand. Now that my husband don't want me to do any more alpine,
Yeah. Oh,
it
makes
just,
sense.
rock is just like you said. I mean, there still can be loose rock, falling rock, but it's
Right.
still like the media itself is a little bit more predictable than ice
Exactly.
and snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually you can feel, see, hear the rock and know like how solid it is, right? And there's not all
Mm-hmm.
these things that are happening under the surface. Yeah.
Right. And did I hear you mention about daughter?
Huh?
You mentioned like daughters. Is that whose daughter? That
No,
when
no, no.
you
I was saying mija is like in Spanish people get confused because it means like
ah,
mi, my daughter, but not
I see, I see.
yeah.
I was just like, wait a second, like since
Like,
when? I was like,
no, no, no. No, I'm 25. It's gonna be a long time before there's a picture. Yeah.
I was just like, wow. I mean, Paloma is fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, but I definitely know you. Are you still sharing the house with Miranda?
Yes, we are. And we're actually so we've been living here with Miranda for almost 4 years, which is just crazy to say. Like it's been yeah, the time has just gone by so fast, and yeah, we've like yeah, witnessed Miranda's transition to motherhood, and um we're like her daughter's like aunt and uncle pretty much, Alora, and have just become this like really wonderful little family unit, and yeah, it's been a really cool experience, but yeah, we're actually moving into town to our own place in August, so a big change. Yeah.
Nice.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll say you have a lot in the plan, and now of course you are moving toward
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah. What the? I'm trying to. All right. your your story is like pretty interesting. It's like very different from how I was brought up and then how I got into
Uh, yeah,
yeah
but I think everybody's like path to the mountains and climbing is so different.
yeah.
That's cool, right? Like,
And
yeah,
and my question is like you described that all right. I don't like it here in Colorado. All
right.
right, so I'm going to Patagonia. And back then, I mean, you're still super young, but obviously back then you're even younger. So you have this like go, go, go mode.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel that you are the type of person who, at least at this moment, that can really sit still.
Yeah, true.
And so when you were making all these transitions, were you say afraid or were you a desire of doing that kind of overcome it?
Can you say the last part again?
So I'm curious, like, doing all these transitions,
Mhm.
I would assume that you just like, oh, am I doing the right decision? Am
Oh,
I like the fear or just being afraid about the uncertainty of whether I'm going down this path and what's gonna happen? Did you have
yeah.
those doubts?
Of course. I mean, yeah, I think like, yeah, self-doubt, everybody experiences it. And just, yeah, like, guiding is not an easy profession, as you know. And so it's like you're investing all this time and money and energy into it. And oftentimes it's like, is this even going to work? Can I support myself financially? But ultimately, like, the thing that I've always come back to and really like when my uncle died, like I was 16 and it just rocked my world in such a crazy way, but it really forced me to examine these big life questions at a young age of like, what's important? What makes me happy? What do I want to do? Right? And for me, like the answer that I found was I'm happiest being in the mountains and outside in nature. And what's important to me to be happy, to be with people that I love, to do what I love. And so, like, it sounds so cliched, but that was like became really clear for me. And then my life became pretty simple because that was my objective, you know? And after this NOLS course and getting into guiding in Patagonia, starting my certifications here, it was like I had a very clear goal and I had immediate feedback because doing the guiding, like starting guiding here in Bishop, guiding in Patagonia, I just loved it. I mean, I love it, you know? I love being in the mountains. I absolutely love like, yeah, sharing this passion that I have with other people and, like watching them develop the skills to be self-sufficient and like, opening that door, like the door was open for me. And so it's like the doubts are there sometimes, but always I come back to I'm doing what makes me happy and I feel this sense of fulfillment and purpose guiding. And so it makes it like a pretty clear path to follow. Yeah.
So what's your favorite type of guiding? So you say, okay, it can be, taking up to Mount Whitney, right?
Right.
Even via mountaineering route or other routes, or you can teach skills,
Yeah.
or yeah. So what kind
Yeah.
of thing that you most enjoy to do if you combine? Because you also mentioned combine this long term plan, maybe take people to Patagonia. What is that? Can you tell me the vision and then maybe the framework? Like, what are you thinking about it? It's not quite concrete quite yet, but I bet you have some thought in
Yeah,
those.
so I really love both experiences. Like, I feel like in guiding, it's often separate. This, like, okay, you're either teaching or you're guiding, right? Like, it's often presented as, we're either taking somebody to the top of this mountain, hopefully, or we're going to do a skills clinic, right? And my favorite type of guiding is where those two things intersect. So, actually, 2 summers ago, I developed my own intro to Alpine Rock course. So this was through actually I just yeah did the whole course on my own and then I used my friend Amy Ness, who's just an amazing role model here in the
The fifth class climbing.
yeah, fifth class climbing. So yeah, she let me like kind of run with this idea of the Alpine rock course and I used her, insurance and permits to make this course happen and did it under fifth class climbing and that was a really cool experience for me and yeah, that kind of opened my eyes like, okay, I think this is like really my niche is like, bringing these two things together, like alpine guiding and the educational side of things, like instead of just, okay, I'm gonna just take you up to the summit of this mountain, like let's do this skills progression so that you can actually maybe go do a mountain on your own. And I think that's like the most rewarding guiding for me is, the clients who are really psyched to learn the skills because they have goals. They want to go, eventually to climb a multi-pitch, or they want to go climb this mountain. And they want to, learn the skills to do it safely. So I think that's, yeah, the most fulfilling for me. Is doing that. And now, through Sierra Mountain Guides, we do a really similar course, Intro to Alpine Rock, that's 5 days. And we kind of work through this progression of skills like multi-pitch rock skills, some snow skills, like moving on snow and putting it together to do a peak ascent in the Sierra. And Mika and I actually did one together last year. So that was really cool because we don't usually guide together. And then, like 2 weeks ago, I guided one really capable client on positive vibrations on the Hulk.
Oh,
Um,
awesome. Wow.
yeah. So, I also occasionally we have assignments like that here in the Sierra that are just phenomenal. I mean, yeah, getting to
That's
guide,
like really a capable client, I would
right?
say.
Like 5 star, splitter 511 in the Alpine,
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
a one client and doesn't get a whole lot better than that. So I also really enjoy those experiences where you have, an experienced client and they just are want to take things to the next level with the help of a guide, and that can be really cool too. So yeah. I mean, I love it all. I love the teaching. I love the mountain side of things and putting it together. And I think, yeah, like with our vision for our company in the future, like that's really what we want to do is we want to take people who eventually want to do things on their own, and show them, okay, like let's say you want to climb the Torre Norte in Torres Alpine, right? Um, you maybe have some rock experience, multi-pitch rock experience. Like, what are all these in-between skills that you need to develop to get there? Because, I really feel like there's a lot of instruction as beginners, right? But once you kind of graduate, like, okay, I know how to multi-pitch climb. Maybe I know some mountain skills, but now I want to climb in Patagonia, which was like that's kind of the type of climber I was when I first went to Patagonia. I was like a 5'9" trad climber. I had done a lot of big like multi-pitch rock routes in the US, but obviously like the skill set to go climb in a really remote range with very unpredictable weather, no chance of rescue, like all of these other factors, you need different skills, right? And so I think there's kind of this gap um for people where it's like, okay, I'm like a pretty competent climber, but how do I get to this next point, right? And that's where we really want to fill in and yeah, take people, climbing here in the Sierra or maybe other locations in the US, but we really feel like the Sierra is just an amazing alpine training ground because we have so much amazing rock climbing, really long alpine rock routes, which is great practice for Patagonia. And the cool thing here is that the weather is so stable generally. Like last year was a huge exception to that. We had crazy storms all summer, but for the most part, like the Sierras, it's also called the Range of Light and it's known for its amazing sunny weather. And so it just makes it a great place to like really hone your skills and get good, like get competent, get fast and dialed, moving quickly up the rock in an alpine setting. And so I think, yeah, we really want to cultivate that with people and then, okay, bring them down to do these bigger objectives in Patagonia. Because thinking about guiding somebody, in Patagonia on a peak without knowing them or having climbed with them before is a kind of a terrifying idea. There are
Yeah.
some, less technical peaks in Patagonia, like more mountaineering style peaks and obviously amazing backpacking. And I think that, yeah, that could be something to explore as well, guiding down there. But for, climbing these towers, like we definitely want to train people here in the US first. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely share with what you just said because the funny thing is, I just told people yesterday about, oh, I feel that I want to create all this so-called, now I call it the gap courses.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and then you just mentioned about, oh yeah, look, we have all these gaps because all these standardized courses, learn to lead, how
Totally.
to
Learn to lead.
multi-pitch,
Intro to
and
track. Intro to motor.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, and I
then,
talked about this a little bit when I was down in Red Rock. Like you've
hmm
been working on these I know like working on these more advanced skills courses and clinics and teaching people to lead, which is
right.
even that is kind of a controversial thing in the guiding industry. Like there's a lot of
Mm,
companies that just say no leading, period, right? It's too big of a liability for the clients.
hmm
So yeah, it's pretty cool that you're interested in that as well.
Definitely. I mean, at some point that we should maybe if we have chance, we should always talk about like design idea courses, curriculum. So just kind of bounce back for us about ideas,
I would love
especially,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
I mean, it was
go
something
ahead.
that, yeah, when I like, first started working here, I couldn't believe it. Like I got, they're like, no, 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 we don't let the clients lead. And I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
what do you mean? Like these clients, they're hiring a guide to teach them the skills to be able to go and do it in a safe way, right? We're taking this dangerous thing, we're trying to make it as safe as possible. Obviously, you're never eliminating the risk, but those people, like, props to them because instead of going and learning from their friends, and some like sketchy, you know, telephone, like pass down the information through a bunch of friends type of situation that I'm sure we can all relate to, learning how to climb, they're hiring a guide to teach them in a safe way. And then we're telling them, no, it's too dangerous for you to lead, right? And so that, like, I kind of realize this early on guiding here, like that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I want to teach these people the skills so that eventually maybe they don't need a guide. And, that's my goal is not just to like, you know, haul people up mountains or like guide them up these multi-pitch routes and get them to the top, but like I want them to be self-sufficient eventually, and I want them to have the skills. And I think, yeah, these advanced skills that we're talking about is where there's kind of a gap in just, a lot of different viewpoints in the guiding industry on like how it should be done and all of that. But I think there's a need for it now because there's more climbers than ever before, right?
Yeah, and definitely,
Yeah,
if you learn it a systematic way, I think it has a lot of benefits.
totally. Yeah, and exploring that like under the supervision of a guide is so much safer than trying to explore it on your own, like
Yeah, because you got to make mistakes, right? But with somebody that who is more experienced than you, overseeing or supervise you, at least hopefully you're not gonna make a mistake that's like too crazy.
right. I know. I know. I mean, I think back to some of my first, multi pitches that I led and I got so lucky, like I really did not know what I was doing in the beginning and was just going for it and had a couple like close calls that told me like, okay, I throw the brakes on, but really it was a lot of luck. Um
Mm-hmm. And
so
then we
yeah,
own,
want that for
yeah, and then I'm not gonna bet on that, right? I mean, I only have this much luck that I need to save up for.
yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm glad that we share some like similar ideas, and it's always nice that with like-minded people, with people that we have different experience to bounce back ideas, so we can make like our curriculum a little bit more thought
Absolutely.
out, I think.
Yeah, and more solid. Yeah, and again, like here we're kind of in this bubble in the Sierra, and it's so good to talk to other guides and yeah, just share viewpoints. And I think that's like how we grow really is, seeing how other people do things. And that's been a really positive aspect of my AMGA training is just being exposed to a lot of other guides. And, as you know, like there's no one correct answer. There's no one correct way to do things. And I think that's been super awesome is just, yeah, working with other people because oftentimes here in the Sierra, we're rolling solo. Yeah.
Sorry, you got cut off the last sentence. I didn't hear that.
Oh, just usually guiding here, we're on our own. So it's nice to work with other people and hear different ideas and all of that.
Definitely.
Mhm.
All right, so last two questions I often ask all my guests is don't overthink it. So looking back, well, it's only have 20 years. Look back,
25, 25.
25 years. What's the most striking, proudest moment pop in your head now?
In just climbing in general or guiding or
Yeah, anything. Proudest.
oh gosh, only one. Oh, it's so hard. Proudest moment. I think I climbed Mount Russell last year with a female client, and we did a like a yeah 510 really classic route mithril dihedral on Mount Russell, and um that was a really amazing moment for me because it was like yeah probably the hardest climb that I had guided at the time. Um Not in the grade, but just in the complexity and that we were at 13,000 feet climbing 510 and um just had such a wonderful connection with this woman and just the two of us and we did this beautiful yeah route and then descended the ridge, the east ridge of Mount Russell, which is just a beautiful way to climb the mountain and um yeah, that was a really proud moment for me as a guide and yeah, it just made me really excited to do more alpine climbing like that with other women. And I just felt, it felt really different than a lot of my other experiences climbing, and it felt really empowering. And yeah, I think a lot of that is because I was with this female client who was a really capable climber herself, um, and she was, she leads 5'9" and she's getting more into alpine climbing. And it was like, oh, this is what I want to do more of. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how about, say, if the audience who listen to this episode,
Mhm.
they can only take one thing away? What do you
Oh,
wish they take away?
follow your passion. Yeah. Do what makes you happy. Yeah. There's a Rumi quote like, let the beauty of what you love be what you do. And I kind of live by that quote to an extent. Like, I think in our modern society, like, so easy to get caught up in like the grind of, we have so many clients that are just like, they're grinding at their desk job and they're, like escaping a couple times a year to go climbing. And that's what they really love. And find a way to, let the beauty of what you love be what you do. Like, make it happen. And I bet there's a way out there. Might not be easy, but I bet you can do it. And yeah, it's worth it. Yeah.
That's nice. I definitely, now that listen to your experience that, many times probably not easy for you, but you're happy about it, right?
I'm happy. Yeah. Yep, I'm a pretty happy person. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me interview you and share your great story. And I really enjoy because the them, which means the Female Guys Request podcast, the listeners can hear all sorts of different experience. I have people who are older, who are young, who are just starting out, and who has been climbing for a while, and then they're curious about guiding, and then they all can take something away from this podcast.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Ting Ting. It was really great talking with you. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I feel honored to be on the Female Guides Requested podcast. I've listened to almost all of them and have just gained a lot from your podcast. So thank you as well for what you're doing. Yeah.